Alright, yeah, welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be doing a budget deck, but this one's going to be a little bit different to the normal budget series that I do, because this one's actually not going to be one that I've built myself, and in fact is actually a very popular archetype in the metagame right now. So this one was a mono blue tempo list that actually got a first place at Star City Games Open Dallas, and it was piloted by Robert Wagner, so congratulations on your win. So the reason why I wanted to do this video today on this particular deck is because there is a big stigma for, on this channel specifically, for shouting down net decks because they're not so fun and everybody's playing them, which makes it boring, which to a certain extent is true, but also net decking is quite important to the health of the metagame. So I really wanted to put out that fire as far as net decking being terrible, and we're going to net deck today. So I'm going to be playing the first place version of this mono blue tempo list. So the reason why this is on a budget list as well, and I feel like I was going to be doing a disservice as well to the budget series if I didn't showcase this one, because this mono blue tempo list came first place at a tournament using only 7 rares. So this makes it perfect for a budget list, because usually my restriction is 6 rares and 4 mythics, and this one literally uses 1 extra rare, and that's actually in the sideboard. So we're going to be piloting this in the best of ones though, because I feel like if you're on a budget, best of one is basically where you want to be anyway. You want quick games that are getting your dailies done as quickly as possible. Always felt that way, and even though this one is budget on the best of 3s, we're not going to be playing that. So this actually only uses 4 rares in the main board. Unfortunately, they're only rares that are used in this deck, and that is Temper Shin. 3 blue mana for a 0/4 flyer, and it gets +1/+0 for each basic island you control. We're running 19 islands, so this thing could be potentially a 19/4. It's not likely to be the case, but we can be swinging with this thing on average sometimes when we've been tempoing out successfully. Maybe an 8/4, 6/4, somewhere around that bracket we can get that kind of value. The other 3 rares are actually in the sideboard. We have Searchfur's Canter, I'm assuming for the long game. I've never really piloted mono blue tempo before, I should state that, but I do know how to pilot it. So I might make some mistakes during the gameplay, but I'm going to try and showcase how to play this one as best as I possibly can. So I'm assuming the Searchfur's Canter is for the control situations where you can get this down nice and early and flip it to get yourself some counter spells so that you can resolve your tricksters and things like that. We do have a pretty good game against control to begin with as well. If we're playing correctly, then we will have something down on turn 1 or turn 2, depending on how comfortable we feel dropping one of these creatures, and then we'll be protecting it with our counter spells. This is basically the structure, the idea of the deck. We play some sort of 1 mana or low to the ground creature anyway. We curve right up at 19. At 3 here, so that's the reason why we're running 19 lands. And we draw a lot of cards as well, so we want to just hold open our Wizard's Retorts, our Dive Downs, Essence Captures, Blink of an Eyes, anything that can protect our creatures from harm. Storm Tamer as well also does that job quite successfully as well. It's a 1 mana 1/1 that can also pay 1 to sacrifice it to counter a spell or an ability that targets a creature or us that we control. So this allows us to counterspell the Settle the Wreckages, because that targets us. Also allows us to target any removal, either that being from creatures like Ravenous Chupacabra, enchantments like Conclave Tribunal and Ixalan's Binding, or just straight up removal like Cast Downs, Vraska's Contempts, and things like that. So it's a really powerful card there. So the things we want to be ideally attaching our enchantment to, speaking of, the enchantment of choice here is going to be Curious Obsession. This is the build around card effectively. It's a 1 mana aura that you attach to a creature. It gets +1/+1 and says whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. And at the beginning of your end step, if you didn't attack with a creature this turn, sacrifice Curious Obsession. We're not in the business of blocking with this deck. We really want to be getting down something early and swinging in with Curious Obsession. The idea is that this deck wins if it can be drawing 2 cards per turn, which is more than most decks can do. And we'll be starting that up on turn 2. So, similar to a lot of my favourite combos, the Fountain of Renewal, Dawn of Hope combo, the drawing 2 a turn is very powerful. This deck does suffer a little bit if it can't do that. Because it does rely on that card advantage to get where it needs to go, to make its land drops, because we are quite low on lands, and also hold open all of our counter spells while also playing creatures. So that's kind of the idea. We do not want to be blocking, so we always want to be attacking. We can do that with flyers like Terramander and Storm Tamer, but we can also do it with the Mistcloaked Herald, which cannot be blocked, which makes it really good for a Curious Obsession. So, once you've got the obsession down on a creature, you want to protect it. Ideally, you want to protect it before then as well, just to make sure that you always have a creature in play that always has the obsession ticking and drawing you cards. So, you want to have your Storm Tamers and your Dive Downs to protect your creatures. This one gives them hexproof in response to removal. We also have Spell Pierce down here as well as a 3-of to counter. The conditional pay 2 is not really going to be too much of a downside for us, because we are going to be trying to pretty much aggro them out. We are a tempo list, so the game can go on a little bit long, but the idea is we want more power than them, and to keep it that way. Card advantage wise, we have 4 copies of Opt, which is nice and low to the ground, allows us to scry and draw. We also have Charter Course as well, which allows us to draw 2 cards, and if we haven't attacked with a creature, we do need to discard, but as I said, we want to be attacking in a lot of the time anyway, so this is likely going to be a 2-mana draw 2, which is quite nice. Essence Capture is one of the newest cards from Ravnica Allegiances. It allows us to counter a creature spell and put a 1/1 counter on a creature you control, likely to be the one with Obsession attached to it. Merfolk Trickster is one of the better cards in this deck, and it's the way that we actually swing the tempo in our favour. So 2 blue mana for a 2/2 with flash, so we can cast it on our opponent's turn, and when it enters the battlefield we can tap a creature an opponent controls, which either allows us to get in with our obsessioned creature if they have a flyer in play, or it allows us to just get blockers out of the way in general, but they also lose all abilities until the end of the turn. So if our creature that our opponent controls has some sort of activated ability, or it gets a trigger from another creature, we can turn that off so that they don't get value from it. It's really nice, and obviously it can be a pretty good surprise blocker as well. Really like this one. 1 copy of Blink of an Eye, I'm assuming just to catch anything that the rest of the deck doesn't catch, and that's essentially the main deck. It's pretty simple. The sideboard has other stuff in here. We have Fairy Duelist from Ravnica Allegiances. 1/2 for 2 with flash and flying. When it enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls gets -2, -0 until the end of the turn. So this allows us to have better blocks that might be better for us. 3 copies of Negate for any heavy removal based decks, and obviously control as well. Surgemare for the green decks, I'm assuming. 2 blue mana for a 0/5, can't be blocked by green creatures, and when it deals combat damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So Sultai midrange is a big thing right now, and a lot of the creatures are green, so this is essentially an unblockable creature. It's very nice, and you can pay the 2 mana there to swap the toughness over into power, so we can make this a 4/1 if we really want to, for 4 mana, which is a pretty good swing. Deep Freeze allows us to capture any cards that we don't really want in play. I'm assuming these are for Lyras and other flyers that might get in the way. Gives them 0/4 and Defender, and they lose all of their abilities, so bring this in if it is relevant. If not, no worries there. We also have Exclusion Mage, which allows us to bounce creatures. Nice little tempo swing. This used to be in the main deck for most tempo lists, and it could still be in the main in best of 1. Exclusion Mage used to be in there, but it always used to fall flat short of the Merfolk Tricksters, which were just doing the job a little bit better, which is why we've got 4 copies here. 2 in the side for the Exclusion Mage. It is bad if your opponent's running things with Enter the Battlefield triggers, so Exclusion Mage not too powerful there, but I have piloted this card to some decent success in like Wizard's Tempo and things like that. So, something to keep in mind. And finally, Entrancing Melodies. 2 blue and an X, gain control of target creature with converted mana cost X. You can take your opponent's Hydroid Krasis. If the game's gone long enough, then you could take an 8/8 for 3... Oh no, it's 4 mana, sorry. Because it's a converted mana cost, so that would be a 2 and X. So, yeah. You want to take all of their big stuff that is actually quite tiny in reality, like Enigma Drakes and Crackling Drakes, things like that. Anything that you might want to steal in Trancing Melody comes in from the side. So that's essentially the deck. This is one of those decks that I do highly recommend anybody who is just starting out actually works on getting. It does take a little bit of an initial investment of uncommons, so you might have to work towards this one all the same, but the rare count is actually very, very easy. It's not the simplest deck in the world to pilot either, I will say that, but it does take a lot of thought, so take your time when you do make your plays to make sure that the thing that is happening is the most ideal situation for you if you can manage that. It also takes a little bit of knowledge about the game as well. So this one is up there in terms of difficulty for a starter deck, but if you're up for the challenge, it is a nice little puzzle, and I very much enjoy playing with and against this one quite a lot of the time. There are certain games where this deck will just instant win, because it just draws more counter spells and your opponent can't do anything, and there are times when it instant loses where your opponent gets tempo before you as well. So it's not going to be the most powerful deck, but I do think it is like tier 1.5 all the same. So yep, I hope you guys enjoy. Let's go into some matches and showcase the deck. Alright, we're on the draw with 2 ops, a Storm Tamer to attach the Obsession to. We need counter spells essentially with this hand, so the 2 ops should hopefully find us that. If we draw a creature off the top, then Storm Tamer is kind of our counter spell. So I like this hand. This hand's keepable. This is almost ideal. Like, we need the ops to actually show us the thing that we want. Okay. So we have a Terramander. We could play the Terramander, but it likely just gets shocked off or something like that, and we don't really want that to happen, so I think we'll play this one a turn slower. We'll use the Opts. Yeah, and then if we can do something like Storm Tamer, Terramander, or dive down off of one of these Ops, that'd be ideal. Okay, we don't want to give our opponent too much time though, because the more time we give them, the better their tempo swing will end up being, and we're supposed to be tempo swinging them more, and Spell Pierce is ideal here. So we'll go Terramander. Now we have Spell Pierce Protection. We obviously do not want to attach Curious Obsession. Do I want to fight over this Quench? Got 5 cards next turn. Could just be a burn spell and I lose Terramander anyway. Yeah, we let this happen. We'll just go for the Opt instead. You always want to have one creature and a way to protect it. Unless you're absolutely horrifically on the back foot, or you're falling behind already. You really just want to bide your time with that kind of stuff. And we have a Mistcloaked Herald. We could take that. That's not terrible. We can even play around Quench. Yeah, sure, we'll take that. We also have another top deck as well, which is going to be a Storm Tamer. So let's play Herald. Herald resolves. We'll play Storm Tamer as a counterspell, and then we also have the Spell Pierce as a conditional counterspell here. And we're going to pass the turn. So we can only use one of these, but depending on what our opponent does, depends on which one we choose to do. Ideally, we want to use the Spell Pierce because it allows us to keep an extra point of damage on board. And our opponent passes it up. Okay, so now we have 2 counter spells essentially. So we're going to play our lands so we can play around Syncopate as an example. And we're going to play the Curious Obsession on the Mistcloaked Herald. We do not want to play it on the Storm Tamer. Because, 1, this is unblockable, but even if this was a different creature, Storm Tamer also has this ability to sacrifice, so we lose this ability if we attach the Curious Obsession to it. So it's something to keep in mind. Now, the only thing I think we have to worry about is something like Merfolk Trickster, but I'm not sure this deck would be running it. So I think we're just going to go with the double attack here. See what our opponent decides to do. We can't really pay Spell Pierce mana here, so it actually could have been correct actually to... Huh. Yeah, we lose our Curious Obsession by them doing this, so we're going to blink this. It might not be correct to do this. if we don't draw a counter spell for maybe a potential board wipe. Yeah, that was a worry that I had, is that we wouldn't draw like a Wizard's Retort or something like that. So I think what we do, we just gotta hope they don't have a Fiery Cannonade. Not many decks actually run it. And this just opens up an extra counter. Yeah, what I should have done is played the Storm Tamer pre-combat, because that allows me to sack the summoning sick one rather than the one that's attacking in, because I would lose a point of damage then if I was forced to use Storm Tamer's ability. More lands. Ouch. Alright, well, if they had something to do on Mistcloaked Herald, ooh, that's good, then we would have hoped that Storm Tamer would have been the option for it. So now we have Dive Down to protect Mistcloaked Herald. This guy is the VIP. Treat him as such. For the most part, you want to throw anything in front of him to protect him. Ral, okay. Ral might need a Dive Down if he ticks down, but he's not gonna. Decisions. That's pretty bad, but we can point 2 Storm Tamers there and the Mistcloaked at our opponent. This only draws cards if it hits the player, so Mistcloaked Herald here is not going to do what we want there. Alright, so swing, swing, and swing. Keep Ral in check while still drawing cards.
Lucky shot.
Another Mistcloaked Herald. I would have preferred something like a Tempest Shin, I think. It would allow me to take care of Ral the turn after next. Yeah, I think we just want to play another Herald. There's no way he's running Star of Extinction, so that would be his next board wipe count. And we can technically protect against Fiery Cannonade with Dive Down, and these are Pirates, so we got that going for us. I'm going to go with the Shock. So we're going to try and Dive Down the Mistcloaked Herald. We still have the Storm Tamers to counter as well. And as I mentioned, this guy's the VIP, so we want to treat him as such. Most things want to die rather than the thing with Curious Obsession attached to it. Gonna go for a Lightning Strike. So we're gonna counter the Lightning Strike. Rally's sorcery speed, so he can't minus on Mistcloaked once the Dive Down resolves. So that last card has to be another burn spell in order to kill Herald here. Which he's not going to be able to do. Okay. So we fizzled that. Ral can't minus on our Herald anymore.
Time to choose.
And anything he ticks up here will not be able to hit Herald. We can end step a Trickster to put 2 more points on the board. Going to be opting. And yeah, we do want to be actually putting the extra points on board here. It's a question of whether or not we want to be pressuring Ral or just going for face, though. Another Curious Obsession. I like that. Stick it on the same dude, so we can protect the same dude if we get ourselves a Dive Down. And we still have the Storm Tamer to protect from creature targeting related shenanigans. So we can take Ral to 1. I don't think taking Ral to 1 is terribly important. It's only taking him to the point where he can't -3 that is important to us. So doing something like that would be good enough. And drawing 2 cards, hopefully they're going to be counter spells. A Blink of an Eye is okay. And a Chart Course is really good. This now allows us to draw 2 cards. Opponent's going to Expansion to draw 2 and discard 1. So they don't get a better version, but they do get a good version nonetheless. They get to do some drawing. That might be bad for us. We were hoping to out-card advantage them with this Chart Course, and that's... It's going to work, but not ideal at the same time. Wizard's Retort is perfect, Blink of an Eye is wonderful, and we won't stick an Obsession on something until next turn, because there's really no reason to. We've got so much mana now that being mana efficient is not entirely necessary. And we actually present lethal here. If our opponent doesn't play a creature here that can resolve. Crackling Drake, okay. One red mana left. We could counter this. And then we have Storm Tamer to protect Heralds. But then we're 1 point short, but then the Obsession makes up for it. I think this was fine to counter. Our opponent has nothing better. Also, the card advantage there was something I was considering. Because I don't think they'd made their land drop, so they could have another red to have a second burn spell, which would have been a problem for us. But, yep, that's a pretty good game. Pretty good game. Okay, we're in. We're on the draw. We have one Terramander, ways to protect it, plus an Opt. It doesn't have the Curious Obsession, which is less than ideal. But I think we can take this hand. Especially being on the draw and having an Opt as well for card filtering. We can make this one work. Tempest Shin's very good. Against this deck, this looks kind of like Sultai mid-range, maybe the green-black one. They could kill Terramander here, which is a problem, so we might want to consider waiting, but I think this is already a terrible matchup for us. We just really have to go for it. If it is Sultai tempo, they've got so much life gain, so much removal, that we're not likely to win this one. Mid-range can beat tempo quite often. And there's Wild Growth Walker. It's the card we were worried about. And we can't really protect versus any explore creatures right now, which would gain lots of life and make lots of power, and this is the reason why we lose this matchup most of the time. So let's just pass. Here comes an explore creature. And takes them above a life total that we can't compete with. Another Opt. You know what, I'll take the Opt, just because we can play it and then get Terramander flipping maybe a little bit earlier. Merfolk Trickster would have been nice. That's what we needed to tap down the Wild Growth Walker here, so they wouldn't gain so much life, but it's a bit late now. I'm just going to bottom it. Maybe we get a Curious Obsession or something. That's basically our only hope of winning this one, I think. More Wild Growth Walkers. Into the yard, and there's the removal we were worried about. And now they're swinging for much more than we can ever dream of swinging for. Yeah, this game's over. Alright, well, we can play Storm Tamer to protect versus Vraska's Contempt, I guess, because Terramander is a little bit better. Swing for one, because we're not actually in the business of blocking. They don't have the double black, so we don't have to worry about Vraska's Contempt just yet. We could maybe consider using, like, yeah, Wizard's Retort here to stop them gaining life and more power on board. And then we've got Tempest Shin dive down next turn. Just don't think that's really good enough. Play Tempest Shin. Swing, swing. It could maybe get us there. But, I mean, we're trading with a Jade Light Ranger at this rate. We need another land in order to trade with a Walker, and by that time I'm sure my opponent will top deck another Explore creature. Hostage Taker. Okay. This is where we use Dive Down. It allows us to block the Jade Light Ranger, so no attacks are coming in. Merfolk Trickster's an okay one. I mean, we do have a big swing with Terramander. We could turn him into a 5/5. It's a possibility. I think we do Trickster Spell Pierce. Spell Pierce, hopefully, for Vraska's Contempt if they play weirdly. And there's Chupacabra. Alright, well, that's Storm Tamer gone. And let's see. Let's tap down. Jade Light Ranger. Just because we're basically trying to stop damage here. So we have the double block on Hostage Taker and kill Terramander. I guess that's going to have to do. We're just facing too much damage though, so even this is just... it's not going to cut it. Essence Capture, too little too late. We have Tempest Djinn and Spell Pierce, but we can't play around Spell Pierce unless our opponent does a no-no. But I guess play to your outs, and your outs is that our opponent does a bad play by not playing around Spell Pierce. Not that I think our out is much to go by. Yeah, there goes Tempest Djinn. And the big swings coming through. And we're just dead. Bad matchup. It's one to worry about. Mid-range is a problem. Alright, we're in 2 lands with lots of creatures, Spell Pierce to protect early, Trickster to tempo swing, and a Wizard's Retort to protect later. Yeah, we can take this. Ideally we want a Curious Obsession, but we always want a Curious Obsession. So we'll just take what we can get. We lead off with Mistcloaked Herald here. Merfolk Warrior doesn't actually have any synergies. Terramander at least can be adapted into a 5/5. So swing for 1. Play our lands, and I think we just go Siren Storm Tamer here. Allows us to protect Herald if we really want to, and also have the Spell Pierce. We could actually lead with Terramander here. I actually don't hate that idea, because you can only really kill 1 creature here, and if it's the Storm Tamer, then so be it. Alright. And now we just hold up and Spell Pierce and Wizard's Retort. End step the Trickster if we feel safe. I don't feel safe. Now I do. Because now I get Trickster plus Spell Pierce. Also have Wizard's Retort, Spell Pierce. So, we literally just get down an early game tempo swing like this. Oops, I actually accidentally skipped through my end step phase there. Shouldn't matter too much though. We can just do Herald again. Because we can pay for Ritual of Soot. This I don't care about. I'm pretty sure. No. Because they could just lead off with a Ritual of Soot or a Cry of the Carnarium, and Spell Pierce should hopefully take care of that. Dump the land. We also have Wizard's Retort as well if they can pay for Spell Pierce. Or if it's a Chupacabra, then we also have that as well. They're just too far back as well, so... This is going to get Spell Pierced. I do not want them finding answers. You don't always want to counter card draw, but I feel like my opponent, yeah, is very far behind right now, so that was a panic dig. If you can identify that your opponent's card draw is sometimes just trying to dig for an answer to your board and they don't have one, then you can maybe make an argument to counter there. So that was definitely one of those situations where they were going to get to draw 3 and scry 3. It was a very powerful effect that I didn't want my opponent to have, so pretty good, pretty good. If you can get an early game start against control, that is basically ideal, and just hold up and you counter magic at that point and they can barely win. Pretty good. Okay, well, we have a very interesting looking hand here. We have the Mistcloaked Herald, which is castable, and the Curious Obsession. The reason why this hand is interesting is we only have 1 island, which means whatever we do to this Mistcloaked Herald, we cannot protect it. I think we take this hand, though, because we can do Herald. If it dies, we can play Terramander. If it doesn't die, then we get to untap with Spell Pierce and wait until we get our second land so that we can Obsession plus Protection. We're going to take this one. It's risky, but I think it's a reasonable one. So our opponent mulliganing down to 6 is very good for us. The more they mulligan, I imagine, the better it is in terms of the late addition to the Curious Obsession. Because this is really here for drawing additional cards each turn. So if they go down a card, it's like we've already got a hit in with the Obsession in that regard. So let's just lead off with the Herald. Because if we draw a land, then I do want to do Obsession plus Spell Pierce. Temple Garden. So this doesn't look like a deck that's likely to interact with me very early on. Like Conclave Tribunal might be the first thing that interacts with this. Seal Away is obviously an option, but I haven't seen that in months, so I'm not going to play around a card that I don't see anymore. And that's basically what I was digging for. If we had a land drop, that allows me to play the Spell Pierce to protect. So I think we win now. It's as simple as that. It's how stupid this deck is. Ah, it's banned Fog, maybe? I think we're good against Fog because of all of our counter spells. So hit with Obsession, get an island, which allows me to Terramander here. And we still get the dive down Spell Pierce, though I don't imagine this is going to be all that useful. I don't think there's anything on turns 2 and 3 that I really have to Wizard Retort. Yeah, you know what? That's probably worth Spell Piercing. And we'll just hold up in the Wizard's Retorts now. You can basically tell our opponent that they can't play for the next 2 turns, which Wilderness Reclamation on 4 is a good Wizard Retort target. Temper Shin's a nice card, but without a wizard in play, we are casting the full price on this Wizard Retort. Tap land. And are we passing? We're passing. Ooh, there we go. Play our land first, swing and draw. More lands. So we could do Terramander, which is an extra point on board. We still get to hold up and Wizard Retort. I don't think we need the dive down. So just Retort should be good enough. Board wipe won't get them there. Teferi will get Wizard Retorted. Hydroid Krasis. Well, that is definitely getting Essence captured. And we'll just pump up the Herald. All in on the one creature we plan on protecting. So they get to draw 1 and gain 1. But they've already lost 1 because I've just put a counter on my creature, so that life gain not relevant. Merfolk Tricks is really good, actually. That means that our Wizard's Retorts will cost 2 mana. I don't think it'll be entirely relevant, though, because I think we're just too far ahead at this point. But we do get the Retort plus Trickster play, and we can do them in any order as well, because we don't need the cost reduction from the Trickster to do it. So they need like a two-play answer here to win, and I just don't think that they can possibly do that. Teferi to tap out. Wizard's Retort to counter. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You lose. Very good game against Control. As long as you get that early game stuff down. Because you can just out-counter them. Very good. Very good indeed. Okay, we're on the play. We have Terramander with Obsession, Wizard's Retort on 3. We don't have an early game counter, which is what I would really like. And if Terramander dies, we might be in a bit of trouble as well. But we do have the mana for Temper Shin, so I think we could take this hand. It relies on us being very cautious with our Pteramander, though. So I don't think we lead off with him on turn 1, because we open them up to shocks. If it is a red deck. That's not something we want. Blood Crypts. Okay, so we can do Pteramander and pretend to hold open Spell Pierce. We do want to be very careful though, because even next turn if I don't draw a counter spell, I'm not sure if I want to play the Curious Obsessions. It might just be Tempest Shin. Steamkin, yeah. This is a deck that's going to have a lot of answers for us. So, how do we want to play this? We could do like one Obsession to draw a card. If they kill it, we have the end-step Trickster on Steamkin anyway. Or the Upkeep Trickster, whenever you decide to call it. Or also another window of opportunity is to just end-step Trickster so that we have Wizard Retort for 2 mana plus Obsession. I also don't mind that idea. This is kind of hard to deal with as well. A 3/4 means that they need like Lava Coil. We try that. If it's harder to kill, we can stick Obsessions to that, because the likelihood is they're not going to be running any flyers. And they're going to need to do like a 2-for-1 on the Tempest Shin if the option was available. So now we can actually put Tempest Shin up to a really huge size here, making him very hard to kill. Swinging for 6. They're going to need some serious firepower to kill him here, I think. Yeah, unfortunately we don't have the Spell Pierce or the Dive Down, but we can hold it open as a trick, essentially, to pretend that we do, because I think we've got enough damage in play already that we're not forced to actually play Pteramander. So we can even do full control mode here. So it looks like I have counter magic. And I'm choosing not to counter this. So they discarded the Crash Through. Light up the stage. Alright, here they go. Let's see what they get. I think we're just out-tempoing them. I don't think they can really do much. Another field, though. Who knows? Gets the field down, pumps up the Steamkin. Unless they've got a way of putting him back to a 4/4, I would have swung first. I got a Crash Through. Yeah. We're allowing all of this to happen, guys. All of that was acceptable. Alright. So. Swing for 6, draw 2 cards. I need a land and I'm threatening lethal next turn. Wizard's Retort. Essence Capture. We could do Charter Course, or we could do the Merfolk Trickster to tap down the Steamkin. Trickster allows us to protect ourselves from the Steamkin doing too much next turn. I also want to hold open the Wizard Retort, though, because if they have an answer to kill Tempest Shin, we're in a lot of trouble. So I think we actually just pass here and discard to hand size. We'll dump the Pteramander, I guess. Yeah, they do get a lot of mana to work with if I don't kill the Trickster or tap it down. But I'm really just trying to stop myself from dying. This could be an Essence Capture on Tempest Shin, taking him to a 7. It's theoretically possible they could still kill him, though. But this is a lot of mana that we're giving our opponent. I think we go for this Tempest Shin plan. threaten lethal. A land drop is also lethal. So we go for the chart course on our upkeep, on our main phase, sorry. Yeah, I just don't want them emptying out their entire hand, which I think they could do with Steamkin doubled. Because they seem to be chaining things like Crash Through together. Oh boy. It's a nice little Mimi burn deck. There's another Steamkin. This is kind of what I was worried about. 4 cards. Basically have all the mana to play it all. But that doesn't deal us field damage, so that's good. Could hit us for 4 with the Steamkin, they're choosing not to. See, I wonder if, by the end of all of this, whether or not they actually would have been able to present lethal if they'd have gone in for the runaway Steamkin attack before they took the counters off of it. Got 2 mana, 3 cards. They've only got 1 attacker, so it's 4 damage maximum. Unless they have, like, lava runners. Wow, revelers. Okay. Draws 3. It's a cool burn deck. I like my opponent's innovation. They're certainly doing a thing. There's Gutter Snipe. Oh my god. 1 mana spell. Have you got a 1 mana spell? Because then you get 3 more mana to work with. Skewer the critics. Yeah, that'll do it, won't it? Wow. It's pretty nutty. Pretty nutty indeed. Yeah, I think they could have played that a little bit better, but they won, so who cares? You know, at the end of the day, as long as the results are positive, not really much to worry about. That is a interesting deck, and I think that maybe it had everything going right for it. I would be curious to see what happens when everything's going wrong for it, though, because that is a lot of engine pieces. They needed Steamkin in play for that, all of that to happen. So we were right to counter the Steamkin there, because that allowed them to chain together. It's just a shame they had an extra one. I think if they hadn't have had the extra Steamkin there, they would have lost. These fields did quite a lot of damage as well. But Spear Spewers and the Gutter Snipes were only like a counter on their Steamkin, but still, pretty crazy stuff. Pretty crazy. Alright, we're on the play. We have 2 turn 1 creatures and an Obsession with protection as well. I really like this hand. Really like it, so we're going to go with it. Alright, so we're going to lead off with the island, and I do believe we actually do the turn 1 Terramander here. So it could get bolted off, but if it gets bolted off, that's not the end of the world, because we can lead off with the Storm Tamer to follow it. I can't exactly do Terramander, Storm Tamer, and protect next turn either. Or even Terramander with any kind of protection. So, I think we do lead off here. We want to get a nice early start. Depending on the matchup, it's very important to get off to a good start. And this is the matchup where... Oh, no, never mind. I was going to say, is this control? This is a weird brew that I'm not sure of. So, we could do the Curious Obsessions, but we don't have a way to protect. So I think we lead off with the Storm Tamer first. We hold off on the Curious Obsession. And we basically just get ourselves a way to protect our Terramanders here. So double Storm Tamer is pretty nice. It opens up the Wizard's Retort. So we can do land Wizard Retort off Curious Obsession or something like that. Dauntless Bodyguard. Okay. So this looks like a kind of blue-white aggro list. It's kind of interesting. So, Obsession. So we got it down a little bit later than would be ideal, but we have protection now. From most of the things that they'd be able to do from us. Settle the Wreckage is maybe the only board wipe they're likely to be running. Island is the best thing in the world, because that allows us to Wizard's Retort. And we are going to hold that open. We can protect against Conclave Tribunal. And we are out-tempoing them. History of Benalia. That is a tap-out, and I don't really want that kind of power on board, so I am going to counter that one. I do not want them getting the City's Blessing. Because they're already at 5. That would have been 7, 8. With 9 from a land, and then any other card would have gotten the City's Blessing there. So, less than ideal. We don't want that. So, I'm going to swing with all of them here. Realistically, I'm only taking 2 on the backswing, and we're already 5 points ahead of them. And now we're 9 points ahead. I really want to see a counterspell here. We didn't find it, so I'm going to go with the chart course. Counterspell just means, wonderful, that I don't have to sack a Storm Tamer to protect my Terramander. And I think we are leaps and bounds ahead of our opponent now. There's the Conclave Tribunal. And we are absolutely... we could save the Wizard Retort for something more powerful. And just take out a Storm Tamer here. I think I'm fine with that, because we are going to be playing Tempest Djinn pretty soon. Yeah, let's just do that. Counter that ability. This also allows us then, if they have a 2-mana, like Seal Away, something like that, then we can Storm Tamer there as well. Blink of an Eye is pretty good. Alright, so swing for 3. So we lost a point there, but I don't know if that's actually going to change the scales of who's actually leading the tempo here, because they're so low on life at this point. So, Tempest Djinn, and this is another reason why I don't think it's going to tip the scales, because now we have a 5-4 that basically blocks everything they have here. Benelish Marshal. Yep, we'll let that resolve. We have a Blink of an Eye. So we do give Snubhorn Sentry, unfortunately, the City's Blessing, but it is going to be a 3-3 when I go for the Blink. I want my opponent to tap down here so that Conclave Tribunal is not an option. So, bounce you. And we don't even need the Terramander at this point, so if they did have a Seal Away, it really doesn't matter. Because we swing back with the Tempest Djinn and Storm Tamer, and we win. So, yeah, that's how we tempo. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoy, and as I said, I do recommend that if you do want to have a budget list, this is basically the top of the tier as far as budget and competitive combined is concerned, so be sure to export this one out and play it yourself if you do want to grind the ranked ladder or anything like that. I'm pretty sure it's going to be fairly good. Of course, it does have bad matchups against the Sultai mid-range list. I've been basically unable to win against that list like 9 times out of 10, so it's most likely going to be a loss just because of the amount of life gain and removal it runs. It's designed to beat your deck, really, for the most part. So before we go, though, we do have 2,000 gold, so let's go buy some packs, shall we? And send off this budget video on a high, hopefully. Ravnica Allegiance, here we go. What do we get? The worst of the rares. Okay, very good. Hopefully I'll have 4 of those so I never have to see their terrible face again. And Smothering Tithe. I actually wanted a copy of this for some fun little jank. So playing with tier stuff, we get jank cards out at the top. Very nice. Alright guys, thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed today's budget video. Of course, it is not the usual unique and creative brew, but it is one of those decks that I kind of feel like I'm doing a disservice to the budget series if I don't actually showcase. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below if you did enjoy this kind of stuff, and maybe I'll do more tier stuff in the future if you want to see some non-jank from time to time. I'm more than happy to do that kind of stuff if you're interested. So thanks very much, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.